AI to Salesforce, as you said, would have surprised a lot of people. But I think when you started your career, your education and your background did not set you up, yourself up to be a top-level banker, did it? Because you studied literature, you came from a sleepy town in the eastern part of the country. When did banking happen? I mean, was it part of a plan, or was it almost by accident that you stumbled into it?
It wasn't a part of plan at all. And actually, I had science at my school level, and I was very keen on studying medicine. And by the time I left school, so ours was the first batch of the joint entrance exams, by the way. But I did manage to get a seat, though the syllabus on which this was being held was the state syllabus, that is in Bengal syllabus, whereas we had a different syllabus, but I still managed to secure a spot. But then, when I went around looking at the facilities, I found that the college had no women's hostel. So I would have to stay outside or in some working women's hostel. And frankly, the situation was such that, it was just not conducive. I just couldn't do it. The hostel was so terrible. And that's one of the things, by the way, that still holds women back as to where they will stay when they are. Of course, things are far more improved now. You have a lot of PG accommodation. But in those days, this was something that was almost unheard of. So ultimately, my father was sort of met the principal of my school, and he said, "You put her into literature because she has, I think she has a flair for writing, and there are lots of opportunities she can get, if she is in literature." So that's how I got into literature. But I always wanted to have a career. And when I was almost completing my education, the subject of what I should do next came up. And at that point of time, there were only two competitive exams where you needed nothing other than merit. No connections, no nothing. And one was the IAS and the other was the bank exams. Now, when I looked at the IAS, to my horror, I found that you needed knowledge of any subject up to the postgraduate level, and that had to be something other than a language. Now, I didn't have that. That would mean I'd have to sit at home for a year and really study for it. On the other hand, the banking exam was a very general kind of exam with just a paper on logic and on general knowledge and English, and I thought I could crack all three. So that was the reason why. And of course, my friends in college also sort of egged me on, sort of dared me that you have to, let's see you crack this. So I applied with so many others, and I got selected, and I got into the bank. And yes, at that point of time, nobody knew what I had to do. My mother thought that it was only counting notes, and in fact asked me that, do you want to spend your life counting notes? Because that's the kind of idea they had about banking. But they also felt that this would be within an enclosed space, it would be safe, so they were okay with it. And then, of course, I discovered what banking all was. And I then, of course, went on to do the All India Institute of Banking Associates exams, which was mandatory for us. So 11 papers that give me a basic grounding of the various acts that are involved, the various practices that are there in banking. And the bank did a pretty good job of sort of polishing me and, making me ready for my career.